And we certainly have a quorum, both by presence and by virtual. So may we have an approval of today's agenda?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, thank you. How about the minutes? Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes that you received?
Andrew?
Yes.
I, Christopher D. Grice, like to approve the minutes.
And why are you giving your whole name? Is that something special now?
Because virtual, so they know who I am in virtual
I
world.
think they know who you are.
Not all.
Okay. There's a motion to approve
We do.
the minutes.
We do.
I told you. Any objections to approving the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. I'm going to begin with my report now. There's a lot to talk about. Most of it's pretty good, though. So we did kick off our Freedom Ticket Phase 2 campaign at the Woodside Long Island Railroad / number 7 line station a couple of weeks ago. We had State Senator Comrie and Councilmember Grodenchik in attendance. Both spoke. Bradley made a wonderful presentation. I spoke. Lisa spoke. Randy spoke.
Felicia Rogers from Tri-State.
Felicia from Tri-State spoke. So we had great.
I'm sorry. Please wear your mask if you're not eating or drinking. Thank you.
Now we will see what happens. We have a lot of good ammunition for getting riders on board with Freedom Ticket. We have this great rail infrastructure running through our neighborhoods, but it's priced out of the reach of many neighborhood residents. Phase 2 of Freedom Ticket proposes to take in all stations in the boroughs that have not been covered in Atlantic Ticket. So in other words, Northeast Queens, all of the Bronx stations, and all the way to Penn Station, hopefully. We don't know exactly yet when Amtrak proposes to redo the East River tunnels. That will obviously have an effect on how many trains can be run through the tunnels, but at the same time, East Side Access is coming, and some of those trains will be going into Grand Central, so that should free up some of the pressure on the East River tunnels. So, having said all that, Bradley did a yeoman's job, and I'm sure everybody else contributed to it on the staff. And we hope, Chair Lieber has said Freedom Ticket is one of the options he will consider when talking about new fare options. He is creating a working group to scope out what kind of fares can be offered. I am on that working group, so I am looking forward to David Jones will be chairing it. So we hope to get some good options out there, because not only do we believe Freedom Ticket is revenue neutral, we think it could be revenue positive, as it has been on Atlantic Ticket, by bringing riders back who did not come, and by having them up their level of ticket from a one-way to a weekly to get the free transfers to the bus and subways, which we hope is another selling point, a big selling point. Yes, Lisa.
I also want to thank Marisol for her help in
Absolutely.
bringing together elected officials from the Bronx. We plan to hold some rallies, including in the Bronx, and if Bradley hasn't already spoken to you, Marisol, he will, about looking at some dates to kick off something in the Bronx, and then also have another rally in Queens to bring together elected officials and riders and our new member Karen, who we'll introduce, is a regular Freedom Ticket rider. So
excellent.
she can.
And needless to say, with Penn Access now environmentally approved and coming to the Bronx, 3 out of those 4 stations are very far from subways, and Freedom Ticket for the Bronx, as well as Spike and Dival, Riverdale, several other Bronx stations, takes on added importance because they're far from subways. So, thanks, Marisol, for all you did, and we look with those back.
I just saw Bradley at the press conference for the bus redesign, so he did mention it. There's a lot of good stuff coming into the Bronx, so we're very happy for that. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on Freedom Ticket Phase 2?
I just
or Freedom Ticket, the sequel, as I like to call it?
I just do want to say, please, if you're not actively eating or drinking, please be sure to wear your mask.
And then you'd be actively masking, wouldn't you?
Yes, actively masking when you're not actively eating or drinking.
As you just heard,
I did raise my hand.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Yes. Regarding the Freedom Ticket, and I just want to say that Atlantic Ticket, I've seen a lot of people using it in the Brooklyn end, but you know, a lot of people have been saying to me that when are we going to start doing Queens and Bronx? And I said, it's already being worked on. So, I have forwarded the press thing.
You mean the rest of Queens and then the Bronx?
You said it.
Yeah.
It's better if you say it's the chair, because it comes out really good. But what I'm saying is the community are waiting for you guys to know when they can come out. So please make sure you please share the information. And just to let everyone know, I couldn't be there because I can't be everywhere, but I have to say, it still went well done. An excellent job, and I have seen a lot of compliments on that video. So Lisa, you better start getting your autograph books with Bradley as well, because they're asking for those autographs soon.
Well, we would like to thank Tara, who was live tweeting us that day, so we did live stream,
And I did share it on to some people who don't have Twitter. They actually still got I made sure I shared it, and they actually got a lot of compliments, including there was a meeting yesterday, they were mentioning it. So it's starting the ball running.
Andrew,
Or rolling? Yes, Trudy.
I know you just said Bradley did a yeoman job, but I think we should go on record as giving him a commendation, putting in a writing maybe, because he worked his, little tushy off on this. I mean, he really.
Bilingual, I like that, Trudy.
I try to be. Anyway.
Yes.
Would you like some other words in other languages? I'll do that too.
No, that's fine. I think we've given him a lot of nachas, as they say, but we can do more if you
Oh,
want.
no, you get the nachas, which is the pride. You give him, well, never mind, I'm not gonna start a Yiddish lesson right now. But anyway, no, but if we can maybe even put something in writing or do something like that, because he really.
he did. But I'd also want to note that there were, Ellen had played a large role in it, Sheila had a lot to do with it, our intern.
No, but I know,
No, I know, but.
yeah, okay.
It's a group effort, but Bradley did the yeoman's share of it, no doubt about it.
You mean the legendary Ellie and the legendary Sheila?
Absolutely.
Speaking of the Bronx, and the bus redesign where Marisol recently, like half hour ago, saw Bradley, next Tuesday, November 9th, from 6 to 8 p.m. via Zoom, the Bronx bus redesign will resume. I attended a couple of years ago when they had them in person, and there were a couple of proposals which would have had people, thanks to the Bronx's very hilly topography, walking up and down numerous hills to get to the same bus. And they really came out and told the bus folks about this problem, and they rethought it, and they are not making them do those hilly walks to get to those buses. So your testimony obviously does count, and now you can do it from the comfort of your living room. I wish we were all in person again everywhere, but for the purposes of this Bronx bus redesign hearing, it will be via Zoom. So if
We will testify.
And we will testify. So if anybody needs the link, I'm sure it'll be on the MTA's website, but we can forward you the link should you not find it. That's next Tuesday. I have Community Board Transportation Committee, so I cannot be on, unfortunately. But Tuesday, 6 to 8 p.m. on Zoom.
We can send out the link, because Tara has that as well.
And I attended some of the Queens bus redesigns too, and there were some wild proposals in there, like removing the buses to the Rockaways, and it was wild. So your testimony does count. So definitely turn out for
You and me and Lisa, we were in Corona, and let's not do the joke, Andrew.
I know, I'm not gonna
don't do the joke.
not gonna do it.
Okay, but it was severely packed, so we gotta be very careful when we do these.
We were in Corona prior to coronavirus. Yes.
Yeah, I told you not to say it.
I know.
You did.
I couldn't resist. So, there are some leadership changes.
Andrew
Yes.
tends to be very punctilious.
Let me get on to this. There are quite a few leadership changes taking place at MTA. Lisette Camillo will serve as the Chief Administrative Officer. That's a position we didn't have. So she comes from the New York City Department of Citywide, or DCAS, if you know that substitute word. DCAS, provides operational support and centralized operational support and management. So that is what Lisette will do here. That's a new position. We also have Jamie Torres Springer, who will serve as the new head of construction and development here. Will take over the
That's
position that Jano had.
Jano's old job.
Yes, yes.
And what's his background?
He is he was, or is currently, until he starts here, is Commissioner of New York City's Department of Design and Construction, DDC, where he has served since 2018, and they do all sorts of infrastructure improvements and everything, street improvements, everything. So, I'm sure we will be in good hands there. And the third person, Shanifa Riera, will serve as Senior Advisor of Communications and Policy. I knew Shanifa when she was at my community board many years ago. She then went to the Borough President's office in Harlem, and Shanifa is great. So I'm looking forward to working with her again. And she will be Senior Advisor of Communications. In addition...
Wait a minute, don't we have a communications?
We do, but...
No.
Tim, is
Well,
it Tim?
not that particular, Tim Minton is,
This would be to replace Abby Collins.
right.
And
Remember
so is
Abby?
that a more senior?
There are 5 people who have the job that I once had, so I just want to know that they're all
So this is at the senior,
I know.
through transformation, a lot of things have changed,
Yeah.
including the fact that
And
there's
getting
no
rid of
longer-
That's coming up.
including getting rid of the transformation guy.
Yes.
Okay, so, in addition, Chief Customer Officer Sarah Meyer will now report directly to the Chair and CEO, to Jano, in other words. MTA Construction and Development Chief of Staff John McCarthy will serve as Chief of External Relations, reporting to the Chair and CEO. And as such, will lead communications, government, and community affairs, MTA arts and design, and key policy initiatives. Laura Wiles will serve as Chief of Staff. That's not a surprise. Naomi Rennick will serve as Senior Advisor for Federal Policy. Almost said Foreign Policy. Wouldn't that have been something? For Federal Policy. And Paige Graves will replace Tom Quigley as General Counsel. Paige comes from the Long Island Railroad. She will be acting General Counsel until a permanent one is named.
Tom left?
Tom is leaving.
Retiring.
He's retiring.
Andrew, could you send us a list, everything that you just spoke?
Yeah, I will, but let me continue, if I may.
There's a press release.
Tom will be leaving. Mark Dowd, who has addressed us, the Chief Innovation Officer, who told us about all of the electrostatic air filtering that's being tested on Metro North and Long Island Railroad cars, which is amazing technology. Mark will be leaving. Don't know that we're getting another Chief Innovation Officer. Anthony McCord, the Chief Transformation Officer, has left. We are now McCordless. But no, and Jano has said several times, our business is transportation, not transformation. So it was a little ridiculous to have had 3 IT and 3 HR departments doing duplicative work, and to that effect, having transformation unites them.
But you just said that somebody is still the transformation.
No, we will not have transformation. Transformation is done.
The question is whether it needs to be de-legislated.
Yeah, well, that's another point. But no, I think Mr. McCord has left already. And here's a real shocker. Our Chief Financial Officer, Bob Ferran, will be retiring this December.
Oh, my God.
Yes, and it's going to be hard to replace Bob. He is really a whiz with numbers.
Oh, so that is announced.
Yes, it is announced. Yeah. So those are the big leadership changes that we are going through. We will try to get some of the new folks to speak to us to address our either PCAC or our particular councils, because I think they will be important. I know Shanifa would be happy to address us. And as communications, I think we want to have a good relationship.
And has Jano now been made permanent rather than acting?
Acting chair, CEO.
As the acting?
Because as you know,
No, but
we have to get Senate confirmation.
I asked
and it
that,
hasn't
I
been-
went on the record asking that question for a reason.
Right.
I knew the answer before I asked the question, so.
Right, the Senate confirmation.
No,
Which is also the reason that some of the holdover board members are continuing to stay in place.
yes, exactly.
Yes, until somebody has been.
No, it has to be, it also has to all be approved by the state senate,
Right, that's-
which will not go into, be re-adjourned until or reconstituted until January.
Unless there's a special session for any reason.
No, but it's still, even if there was a special session, that it would not take place at the special session, because the special session would only be called for the reason of calling a special session.
Okay, so then it's January at the earliest.
It's called, never mind what it's called.
Okay,
I'll give you a Yiddish word for that also.
A quick ridership. Every week, it seems that we're breaking some new ridership levels, which is great news. Last Thursday, a combination of subway, bus, and Staten Island Railway passengers combined to give us over 5 million riders, and that is great news. People are voting with their feet. They're coming back. The transit system has, I noticed last week, because I like to check this on a regular, several times a day basis, if you check the status of various lines, you can see which ones are saying we're running as much service as we can due to the staffing we have and things of that nature. There were fewer of them last week. So the process by which we're hiring new people, bringing back people who have retired, even on a temporary basis, the C, the F trains are the ones that have usually gotten hit really bad on this. We're running as much service as we can due to the amount. They seemed a little better last week. I hope this trend continues. But it's still a fraction of what pre-pandemic levels were, obviously, but it's moving in the right direction, and it's moving at a rate faster than the McKinsey estimates, which is also great. So keep posted on that one. There has been some, you may have seen it, in the last 2 weeks, I made some comments at some committee meetings about things that riders can do to help themselves in what appears to be a new crime surge. Some violent crimes and thefts have increased to the 20-some-odd%. These are snapshots in time. They go back, they go down, they go up. But there are things I said that riders can do to help themselves. Know who's around you. Don't stay near the edge, and things of that nature. One of the press decided to make this a confrontational thing and said I was blaming riders for their victimhood, and which was simply not true. It was not the normal reporter from that paper. I made a statement at the board meeting stating that I've been a rider advocate for over 38 years. I'm hardly a blame the rider person. I mean, that's just the most ridiculous characterization ever. They also said a few bad words about Lisa. We wrote outraged comments to the paper. The editorial staff changed it slightly, not enough to all of our liking, but it was changed. I got several emails from other reporters saying, we know you didn't say that, and this is,
And from Jano.
And Jano even made some wonderful statements about me, which I am very appreciative of, and he said, you earned it. But I even got, the board to back me, and I said, just to show there's no hard feelings, someone who said one of these things about me at the last board meeting via Zoom, I said his name was spelled incorrectly in the minutes, so I said, just to show there's no hard feelings. But I think I made the point, we don't blame riders, we help riders, we advise riders, we advocate for riders, whether it's been fares, service, new service routes, Atlantic ticket, Freedom ticket, new rolling stock, and what's best for riders, station conditions. I mean, just name it. I think we're hardly blame the rider people. So, that had its moment in time, and it's passed. And I just also would like to recall that yesterday was the 117th anniversary of the subway system. Yesterday was Subway Day. It began in 1904, obviously, as a very short line, and has blossomed into a system that most cities in the U.S. could only hope to have a piece of. You couldn't rebuild this today with today's budgets and everything. It's just impossible. So we have a treasure here, and we need to treat it like the treasure that it is, and keep it in good shape. Make sure resiliency is an important part of the ongoing capital program, since these 100-year storms appear to be happening every 2 years or whatever. And I know that the chairman is on that page, and I know that construction and development and Pat Warren is on that page, the chief safety officer, and we will be advising on all kinds of resiliency efforts. Lower Manhattan, as a result of Superstorm Sandy, has had resiliency built into it, but it's really the only major place in the whole system that has. So we're looking at the curb things, we're looking at pumps, we're looking at third-party infiltration, because some of the water that's coming into the system is coming from buildings above the system. And speaking of third-party, the zoning for accessibility rule, which is now city law, is great, because I think we're going to get a lot more accessible stations. It will pay developers now to incorporate entrances into their developments, depending on how close they are to the system, obviously. And we have under 30% of our stations of 472 accessible. That's not acceptable, no rhyme intended, in a city like this. So we hope to do a lot better. I know that if we get congestion pricing, you know, the 10. When we get congestion pricing, I like that even better.
Yes.
It's taking long, but I think it's coming, and I think that will contribute largely to our making the system the kind of place we want it to be for all of our riders. So that is my report. Christopher G. Grice.
Yes,
We're using this.
yes, well, no, it's okay, but anyway, just to say one thing, I really was proud that that was passed, because of all the years, I have never heard all 59 community boards said yes. Of all the years, I'm always hearing them fighting on different things, or saying, one board will say no, one board.
I can't remember the last time.
59,
were
yes.
in favor of something.
But there was another thing, now, from the good part down.
What was passed? Where are you referring
Each
to?
community board.
CFA.
CFA.
Oh, see, okay.
Yeah, when all community boards voted yes, no fighting, that was the most shocking thing in the history books.
Especially considering some community boards don't even really have, I mean, they have commuter rail, but they don't have subway.
Well, commuter rail will benefit also.
Yes, it will.
Thank you, Lee.
It absolutely will.
The one thing when I heard what they said to you two, it really, really disturbed me very strongly. And I think whoever that press person is should be ashamed, because I know you, Andrew, I've been here. You never do that. I see you on the trains, and Lisa, I know for 3 years you've been doing a fantastic job. And the one thing that person should say something like that should be ashamed of himself.
I think the article was constructed with the idea of being confrontational. I think that was the bent of the article. It was just absurd.
Wasn't it in the Post?
It was.
It was.
Yes.
Okay, we should know that anything that we do, that anybody does, the Post is going to find something negative. So
It's a different reporter.
It was
it doesn't matter, no, I'm not talking who
They've been
the
supportive
reporter
in
is.
the past.
I am talking about the, publication, if I don't want to give it that kind of an appellation, but the publication, believe me, I have spent my life, ever since Murdoch took over and everything, and whatever I've done in wearing my various hats, fighting, it doesn't matter, because, and that's why at various points, every one of the good guys and good women have left the Post whenever they can. I mean, believe it or not, I don't know if you know, but Maggie Haberman at one point wrote for and she got out of there but all I'm saying is don't take it personally, because that's what they get paid, the people who work for the, and I'm going on record saying this.
I will say that David Meyer, who's the reporter we usually work with, and the editor I was on the phone with at midnight, the night that the article was running, were very responsive and did try to support us. And even when I was on the phone with them at that time, we're working to change words in the article online and change the headline and continue to make changes as I followed up with them. So this reporter we'll never speak with again.
No.
Obviously, had some, was definitely directed or self-directed.
I'm going to go on.
But the editor and the usual reporter were very responsive to us.
Okay, I am going to go on record wearing my hat as the long time ago Director of Public Affairs and Government Communications here. We didn't call it then, we called it Public Affairs, but same thing. And all I am telling you, because we've gone through this here and at every other organization, and even in wearing some of my other hats, and I am telling you that, of course, they're going to be nice to you. But when push comes to shove, even if David Myers or anybody else, and I'm not saying anything negative about him, but if his editor will edit what he did, or will change it, or tell him to put a certain spin, that's the word, on the story, that's what they do at the Post. And so the best thing is, except for, specific things, try to keep your conversations with the Post, because somewhere down the line they'll say that you tried to influence them, or you tried to get them. I've seen it happen so many times. It's not that I have a magic crystal ball or anything like that, but I'm just giving some advice.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think we've talked this one a little.
And I think, Andrew, I told you this when we talked about this, that,
You did.
okay, now, can I say something about something else?
Did you want to say something about this or about another topic? Another topic. Okay, go ahead, Trudy.
And then
Yeah, what I wanted.
Oh, yeah, then I definitely want to introduce our new member.
Yeah, well, that's what I also wanted to say, because you talked about the 117th anniversary. When, and Andrew, I hope you remember this, but while I've been home a lot, I've been cleaning out. I'm a pack rat, as those who know me know that I do, and I collect and I save and whatever. And I came across, first of all, I meant to bring in for new people the thing that we did about Adopt a Station, and because it's something that's going to come up again if we ever can do some financial stuff. But this group, for the 100th anniversary, which was
17 years ago.
17 years ago, so that would be 2004, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
I can still do that. No, but anyway, we put out a thing for the 100th anniversary, giving a history. I worked on it with some of our people then. Andrew, I think you even
I think so.
helped put it together. And so, if you like, I will. And that was a time when we actually did things, brochures and on paper and with pictures, and not online. So, I will bring it in the next time, or I will, get it in, because I think especially for our new members and our new staff, it would be very helpful to know the history.
I'm not sure what it is. Is it a book?
No, it's like a brochure, a folder. It's like, a threefold or whatever it is.
Great, thank you.
And so I think that would be helpful, and I found a couple of copies, but you still do things on paper, right? So that we can make copies and actually hand them out, yeah. But it really is, quite a history, including why the IRT, which used to be called the IRT, the BMT, and the IND stands for the Interborough Rapid Transit Company, the Brooklyn Manhattan Transit Company, and the Independent.
We know all.
I bet, did our new people all know?
Yeah.
Trudy, we're racing a clock here with our.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, but anyway, I will bring that in.
So I'll save
because
my
I think
rest
it
of
would
this
be
on the new
helpful.
business.
Yes.
No, I'm just.
I just wanted to say, I believe that the New Yorkers are doing a terrific job about wearing masks on buses and subways. But in terms of paying on the SBS, they're not doing a good job.
Yep.
You need more cops, and not just once every 6 months.
I can't tell you the last time I actually saw an Eagle team on the SBS. It's over 2 years.
Oh.
I saw one on.
I used to see them regularly. I could predict where they would be, which is also not a great thing. You shouldn't be able to predict where they're going to be. But, no, they know this too. Trust me, they know.
Andrew, they were on the 82.
Yes, let's introduce our, do you have her?
No, I'm going to ask Karen to introduce herself.
Welcome to our Transit Riders Council, Karen.
Yay.
We haven't had a new member, and I can't tell you. Karen is from Atlantic Ticket Territory. Yeah.
So, thank you. I'm very excited to be here. It's a long time coming. Started this process last summer, and
That's a short time.
in my world, that was a long time. Now that I've heard that there's processes, so I'm fortunate that it wasn't as long as intended. About myself, I am a planner, urban and regional planning by education and training, lifelong New Yorker who did a stint in South Florida for about 12 and a half years. Came back right before COVID, and really started getting into the advocacy space. Got involved with Riders Alliance in a Queens bus redesign meeting, and fast forward to today, it's because of Riders Alliance that they encouraged me to join this committee. So, very excited at the various projects that I'll be able to support in the committee.
Great,
Thank you, Karen.
thank you.
What do you do in regular life?
Consulting.
We're very excited to have you. We've already got a list of things that we would like to engage you on.
How many days a week have you been commuting, just out of curiosity?
As needed, and it's, for some meetings, and some maybe like 3 days, 2 or 3 days a week, and basically take the railroad to Penn Station, sometimes to Brooklyn, and then take the subway or the bus.
When you use Atlantic Ticket, are you hearing conductors when you arrive at Jamaica stating that if you're using Atlantic Ticket, you need to, and if you're if it was a Penn Station bound train, are you hearing them say you must transfer here for a Brooklyn bound train?
No.
Not at all?
No, and as a matter of fact, not everyone knows about it. Sometimes people will just show, like even today, I forgot to get the ticket because I've been going to Penn Station so much, and I knew I wanted to go to Brooklyn. And when I remembered on the train, I asked the conductor if I could get a ticket, and he said no. So I had to just show my off-peak ticket.
Oh, can I mention that?
But sometimes I see people on the train or about to, and I tell them they're going to Brooklyn.
We've been told, when I asked about this, that Jamaica is the station with the most tickets sold because that's the last place that you have a chance to do it before you proceed. So people that are on a Penn Station bound train, for instance, need to get off there, get their Atlantic ticket, and continue to Brooklyn.
Yeah. They didn't even offer that as an option for me today.
Really?
We heard that a little secret is that if you keep going to Penn Station, that they won't upcharge you. So,
But
That is actually correctly coming about that.
Atlantic Terminal is obviously the better route.
right.
Yeah.
Andrew?
Yeah.
I can witness that because, excuse me, the problem is when I don't even hear them saying that because when I go to Queens Village and going towards Atlantic, they don't even say that. And reminding, if you're a customer that using the Atlantic ticket, you must stay on this train to Atlantic. I don't hear that.
Well, you don't have to. You can get off at No Street, New York, too.
Yeah, but there was one conductor, a year and a half ago, before COVID, did make the announcement. Now he's not with us anymore.
Yeah, they've plucked off on the announcements. It's
Yeah.
pretty obvious.
And regarding what she's saying, I agree with her because this is, they're supposed to have that in the machine. It has it on the app,
Yeah.
but why they're not doing that on the train? It's really upsetting me to
It
see
should be
that.
the first ticket. If it's available and it's for your destination, it should be the first thing that shows up because it's the cheapest thing. It should be on e-ticket. It should be on all these kinds of things, and we've told them that over and over.
Agreed.
And that was part of the announcement. Bradley, you weren't here, obviously, because you were doing important work, but we talked about Freedom Ticket launch, and what a great job you did. Trudy wanted to propose that we give you a commendation.
So we'll just give you a standing ovation.
Yeah.
Stand up. Look at him blushing now.
Andrew, can you talk for a minute about the fare capping that General?
I can, yes.
Woo, that's what I'm dying for.
So, one of the major aspects of Omni, and I knew this was coming because Al Poutre and Wayne Leiden, and both of them are no longer with the Omni program now. There's a new person who I am endeavoring to find out. I think she may be temporary, but
What's her name?
I forget now. Just went out of my head. But she's here since the Jay Walder days, I believe. Fare capping is a way of getting around not offering monthlies and weeklies. What fare capping does is, if you buy so many rides for a period, such a period of time, and you use up those rides before the end of that span, every ride above that is free. That is an incentive to use the system on a discretionary basis, maybe use it more than you might otherwise have used it because it's paid for anyway. Fare capping is in place in London, it's in lots of places now, and it's brought people out, and it's a great system. I think it can work. I don't know the particulars of this fare capping option, and I hope to hear that as part of this working group on fares, because I am sure that that's coming. Of course, reduced fare, senior, and all those kinds of fares will also be available on Omni and will be also subject to the same fare capping, so everybody will get the benefit.
And commuter rail.
When we get to it, yeah, and commuter rail, which is later on. Trudy?
Yes, just FYI, because I know you don't get New York One,
I can't.
but that was the lead story on New York
Oh, I know.
One today. And it really went into detail about how you do it, what it means, you know, the dollar, almost down to the dollar amounts that it would be. So we must have put something out about it.
Jano has held a press conference.
No, but I mean, we must have put something out in writing, you know, whether it was a press release.
So the genesis of the conversation about fare capping, you know, it's been discussed, it's been in the works, it's been part of the Omni conversation. Yesterday, there was a press conference to announce that the MTA was partnering with Robinhood and others to buy a bulk reduced fare Metro cards and distribute them, and that they were working with Robinhood Foundation to increase the number of fare cards that were available, and also the advertising surrounding that. So great, which is terrific. In response to a reporter question, Jano discussed fare capping. It wasn't a press conference about fare capping. It was a response to a reporter question. And so I got a call yesterday from AM New York about it and said, absolutely, this is terrific. This is what Omni was built for. Basically, that now, you know, this is precisely what one of the things that you can do with Omni, and it really gives riders more flexibility, more freedom, and the incentive to ride. And hopefully, and the more ridership, that shows the need for more service. So, you know, we look forward to it being implemented. It's not in place yet. And in fact, it would need to be, unless it's being put in as a pilot program, it will need to be implemented through a board vote. And my question to Andrew is whether that needs to go through a hearing, since it's a change in fare policy. And if it does, then hopefully we can get Atlantic tickets to go through, and also some of the other discount programs that we're calling for. But if it's a pilot that's being looked at as part of the fare policy working group, then there should be other conversations on the table. If it's as simple as moving it forward, that's one thing, but right now, Omni's really most effective on subways and buses. It's not even in place on commuter rail, and it's not in place for all-door boarding on buses yet.
Well, the way that, I can only go by what they reported on New York One, and they must have been at the press conference and heard, okay. And they went into detail, and they said that this program is starting, but it will be approved, and the way they talk about the board, will be approved by the MTA at its next meeting. You know, that's the way they present it to the public. But they went into a lot of detail, so whoever, and it wasn't, what's his name?
It wasn't Dan.
It wasn't Dan, it was somebody else. But whoever had done this really, they must talk to somebody here after Jano's press conference, because they, I mean, my ears perked up, because it was in such detail, and I hadn't seen anything in writing about it at all. So that's why, Andrew, you may want to find out who they spoke to, but it is definitely just whoever they spoke to said it was going to be, it had to be, but that it would be approved officially by the MTA when the MTA met. That's the way that they presented it, you know.
Well, the November board meeting will take up the November financial plan, and, you know, they've been trying to do away with the weeklies and monthlies for a while. Fare capping would be a substitute for that, but it's not in effect all over the place yet, and reduced fares aren't even available on Omni yet.
They're being tested.
Yeah, I know.
I'm testing it.
So, right, so it was sort of an interesting, I think if the question hadn't been asked, the answer would have never been given, and it would have never been.
It would have never been the lead story on New York One.
Right, or in the Daily News as a breaking news, or in AM New York as a top story, or in any of the other.
Oh, was it in the Daily News also?
Yep, and I just got a call from, WNYC, so we'll send a quote to that.
Too. Yeah.
And they're speaking to Jano.
Hopefully-
But there was also some confusion, because somebody had, reached out to, and this is in the AM New York story, somebody had reached out via Twitter to the MTA's press office and said, so is this in effect now? And the MTA's press office said yes, and then they had to take that
Yes,
back
they
because
took
it's
that
Well,
not.
but that's the way it was presented on New York One, that it was in effect right now.
It is have a monthly or weekly, but it's not on Omni.
Well, maybe we could suggest to the MTA Communications Office or whatever it's called.
On a monthly and a weekly. it's
That
not
they
there.
put out something to clarify it.
Well, I think Andrew's gonna have a conversation.
I am gonna have a conversation.
Can I,
Go ahead.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say this, yes, the reducer is being tested right now because I know I'm one of them, but the concern is still came out, because I mentioned this month and past, that the monthly needs to stay somewhere or something needs to be a deal, because we have people that budget, they do a monthly because it's easier to budget when they have to go from A to B or wherever they have to go. And now, since there's going to be merging everything into the Omni card, something needs to be easier for them to budget.
You could argue, Chris, that fare capping, depending on the amount of days you have to use up these rides, may be a better deal than the traditional monthly, which locked you into a calendar month, you know?
We'll have to see if
It's much more, gives you more flexibility, yet still gives you a deal. So, you know, there's something to be said about
I'm
fare
not
capping,
saying- I'm not
depending
saying-
on what the
We just don't know any details.
we don't know the whole
details.
details, because now with this coming out, it's a big fat question mark.
Yeah.
We don't know.
A question mark. I
A
like that, an
it's-
extra syllable.
Yeah.
I like that.
I've just made up just for you.
That's great. Can't tell if anyone's hand is up.
Lisa.
Go
and-
Mhm.
So again, the same discounts right now that are available through MetroCard aren't yet available through Omni, but wouldn't it require, there was discussion, Andrew, at the prior meetings about the monthly and continuation. I think this is what Chris was trying to get at. So I'm saying, wouldn't we have to have special tariff hearings just on that? Meaning that it's not a given that the capping will happen, meaning there'll have to be public hearings before this plan can be enacted. And I think we should go on record and take a position.
Unless they do it as a pilot, I'm guessing that you will,
Okay, they can do it as a pilot without having a hearing?
yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
one of the things
got
they
it.
said at the fair hearings, in advance of the fair hearings.
Right.
The last go-around, it was determined that they could implement pilot programs without having to go through
Right,
hearings.
that's the nuance I missed. Sorry about that. But dovetailing, and then moving on, not to dovetailing about knowledge of these things, we have to ensure that when they're doing the pilot, there's information that people can readily see to know to try this or be enticed by this. Because like we were talking earlier about the Freedom Ticket and the Atlantic branch of the Long Island Railroad, at the beginning and rollout of that program, there was signage at the stations, signage at Atlantic Terminal. These things have disappeared. There are no announcements to echo the other comments that I hear when I use that line to go to our juvenile prison. So signage and messaging is very important with this pilot in order to have accurate results to say whether we move forward or not. So they need to do a
I'm expecting that
campaign.
the electronic billboards, there'll be all kinds of signage, because this will be something they will want to roll out.
Okay,
So,
I hope they do.
Be out there. Because you wanna do away with MetroCard, you want people to convert to Omni. This is a great incentive to convert to Omni. Anything else on this topic? Our speaker is not here yet, so do you want to do any kind of report, Lisa?
Sure. Well, we have now been, Kara, were you here? Is this your first official TRC meeting?
No, second.
This is Kara's second official Transit Rider Council meeting. Jessica's third? Second and a half.
Second and a half.
Right.
Well, unless you want to count the trip.
How can you have
Bradley's
half a meeting?
200th.
You know.
My 50th, no. No, we're absolutely thrilled that Kara and Jessica have joined us, and we're looking forward to, we've begun developing our thoughts and ideas for some planning activities for the coming year and months. If you guys have any thoughts and ideas, we'd love to have them. We'd love to hear them. Please send them our way. Kara's been doing a terrific job on social media, so that's something that we've been really working to build up our presence on. Hopefully you've seen us do that. Our website launch, which you continue to hear about, is ongoing. Our designer, our website guy broke his arm, and I guess it's hard to, design a website with one arm, and now he's on vacation. So hopefully that's to mend, and we have a group of punch list items for him to fix that we will be sharing with him that he's hopefully going to address over the weekend. And we had hoped to be able to do the rollout over this weekend, but since we want to make sure everything is fixed first, we won't be doing that this weekend.
Did he give you any kind of estimate as to when it may be ready?
Well, he just needs to, he said it shouldn't take long, but we have to get him this final group of listings. I went through and did my revised edits on Tuesday.
Can we get a look at it before the official rollout, just to make sure that we don't have any questions or no, it's always good to have many pair of eyes as possible on something major.
Yes, absolutely, and that's I'd like to have these things fixed first.
Well, could we maybe even take a look at what's there now and then noting what has to be fixed, just so that we have the time to review it?
Most of the fixes that we have to do some of them are pretty minor, so I think we could fix those pretty easy, and there's a couple of other ones that might take a little bit more, but once we find out from Francois what that is, then we'll have a better idea when it rolls out, and then we can...
I can't hear you.
So, with the...
Take your mask off, you can't...
With the fixes that are going to take a little bit more time, I'm going to ask Francois what the turnaround on that is, and if it takes too long, then of course before those major fixes, we can send it out with the other quick things.
Now, before we do the rollout.
Yeah, for sure.
It would be helpful.
Okay, our speaker has joined us, so it's certainly somebody we all know. We've known Craig Cipriano for many years as head of buses, and now Craig has the entire New York City Transit as his bailiwick, and he's gotten off to a great start. I've seen him everywhere, and Craig, thank you so much for being with us, even if you do have a really old bus behind you.
I was trying to figure out what kind of background to put up, and this is always one of my favorites. So although I'm working transit, subways, bus, paratransit, buses is in my heart. So I decided to go with the bus background.
Don't forget, yesterday was the 117th anniversary of the subways.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I should have spoke with Sarah and Tim. We should have had a really big cake out in Bowling Green. Could have done. Yeah.
It's never too late for cake.
Never.
I see Bradley beat me back. Is that Bradley there in the front?
Greg, how long have the buses, if we count the horse-drawn carriages and all the rest, have been in existence?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it goes back to the early 1900s, if I'm not mistaken, Fifth Avenue
Oh,
coach.
that's the subway back to the early 1900s.
Yeah,
No, but what I'm saying is, I'm trying to remember, like the early days of Fifth Avenue coach and, you know, some of the private bus lines, both in Brooklyn and, well, the Brooklyn goes back to the trolley lines, right? They were trolleys and then the buses came next. But I think the history does go back, I don't know, Andrew, can you help me with that?
Before, no, it's
I wasn't
Trudy.
old, but I'm not that old.
I've been doing the history stuff, Greg, and
Okay.
that's why I tried to find out, and I really couldn't find out when it was like a system rather than,
Right.
but it's gotta be the 1800s, so.
Well,
when-
MapStoa, I want to say
With
MapStoa
all
was
your
created
other
in
work, I'm not asking you to take on that task, but
let's
it'd be
listen to
interesting
Greg.
to know.
No, I want to say MapStoa was created in the 50s, if I'm not mistaken. I think so, when they consolidated private lines in MapStoa. But I'm not the best historian, but I'll tell you something interesting. When I started at Michael J. Quill, when I came to Michael J. Quill, which was in I think it was the early 2000s, we still had bus operators that had started work in Fifth Avenue coach. They were still with us in the early 2000s, right?
Michael Quill was around since the 1970s.
No, I mean the depot, Michael J. Quill Bus Depot is what I'm saying.
Oh, the depot, I thought you were talking about Michael J. Quill, the person.
We're gonna let Craig give his
Yeah.
talk, and then we'll take questions, okay?
This is-
Craig, it's 1962 for MapStoa.
Oh, 62. So Stuart knows better. 62. Okay. Unless you just Googled it. Tell the truth, Stuart. Did you Google it or you had that in your head?
I did not.
Okay. Okay.
But Dan Scannell used to tell stories, but we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fred, I've enabled screen share for you.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I mean, we put together a little bit of a slide deck just to kick it off, but you know, happy to take any specific questions as we go along. You know, I'm here, you know, at your disposal really to have a conversation. So, you know, thank you again, Lisa, Andrew, and everyone else for inviting me. Let me see. I think I have control here. How do I put up the slide deck? Share screen, right? I'm going to share screen. And then I'm going to see, I click this. Let me see. Let me know if you see it.
It's a good start.
Something. Yep.
There it goes.
Here we go.
Everyone see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so, you know, let me just start off by, let me page down. Where's page down? How come, hold on, I'm having technical difficulty. Enter? No, let me see. Oh, here it is. Okay, hold on. Okay, there you go. So, you know, near term, and you know, that's a nice picture there of Demetrius in one of our conductor classes shaking hands. But, you know, near term, it's really about, you know, continuing to provide the best service we can and bringing back our ridership, right? And, you know, what do we need to do that? Really, there's a few challenges we have. We have staffing challenges, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing to try to address those staffing challenges. You know, back in 2020, you know, we implemented a hiring freeze, and, you know, rightfully so. We really didn't have any idea about what our financial outlook looked like. You know, we had billions and billions of dollars. In fact, I think it was $14 billion, remember correctly, budget deficit. We didn't know what was next. So we had to implement the hiring freeze at that point. COVID-19 is still with us, right? And we still need to make our customers feel safe in and around our system. And then again, safety and security. So these are the three things we're really prioritizing amongst you, really providing the best service we can. And then we have a little bit of a vision about, you know, we call it here vision for the future, but it's really about what we need to execute on now to bring customers back, and then where we're going next. So it's a little bit about what we want to talk about here. So again, bringing back full ridership, right? And again, just to reiterate, in case anyone hasn't seen it, on the subways, we're up to about 3.2 million daily customers. And each and every week, that's been upticking by about 2% or so. So there's a continued increase in customers, we say week over week, which is great, you know, really optimistic about that. On the bus side, we're up in about the 60th percentile, somewhere between 1.4 and 1.5 million customers each and every weekday. And on paratransit, we've been really strong since throughout the pandemic. We're up to about 80% of pre-pandemic, about 22,000 trips each and every day for our paratransit customers. So again, you know, we're looking to do the best, you know, provide the best service we can. And in the short term, one of the critical path to doing that really is about some of our hiring and shortages in regards to conductors, train operators, and bus operators. And we're going to talk about that in the next slide here. Okay, so I went a little ahead. So the staffing is this, and again, that's a picture of the new bus operator class. And then here, we're going to spend some time on this slide. So, we look at this challenge really from three different perspectives. It's from hiring, it's from the training front, and then how can we make the best use of our current resources, meaning bus operators, conductors, and train operators within the current construct. So let me start with hiring, right? We brought back retired employees on limited time appointments. In other words, once an employee retired by law, they could come back and earn up to $35,000 for up to 90 days. So we just put out a letter recently. We went back 3 years for conductors and train operators. And the initial word we had gotten back that about 60 conductors and train operators were in fact interested in taking this up. In fact, of those 60, just 10 of them, I believe it was, just started back training this week. And we hope to have those 10 folks in and around the system driving trains and doing conductors work next week. We increased our hiring targets, meaning that with maximizing hiring, I think we're up to 300, if I remember correctly, 300 train operators and conductors in the schoolroom, and over 900 bus operators that we already onboarded. Again, we're looking to expand the exam periods to bring in more candidates. We narrowed some of the hiring criteria. Specifically in buses, we had some more stringent hiring criteria than the 19A law. So we pulled that back a little bit. Again, we're doing all this without sacrificing safety, but we think there's some opportunities given that we have such a critical need for people. Again, on the bus operator side, one of the things we were hearing from new bus operators that they had taken a test before the pandemic. Now they were being called back and they were saying, well, I let my commercial driver's license permit expire, and I don't really, you can't get into DMV. So what we did is we partnered with DMV and we got 60 dedicated slots so that anybody we call that's in that predicament, we're going to prioritize, they can go into DMV and re-establish their permit. So those are some of the things we're doing. Again, we work with DCAS on bus operator side. We're working with the Transit Diversity Council and the high schools and colleges, trying to get like curriculums developed and pipelines and apprenticeship programs going so that, there's a current consistent pipeline of employees and people that come into transit that already have somewhat of a background in transit. They've went through a curriculum so that when they come day one and we put them through training, it's not like everything is new. And again, we're trying to do this through some apprenticeship programs and the like that we're starting up again. And again, I don't know if you've seen it around out and about. Really, we started with bus operators right now. You'll see them all throughout the subway system on our digital screens, but we want to extend that to other titles, specifically in the subway side, just to promote, what a great job transit is. And, let me just say a little something about myself. I started here in 1989, right out of college. I was a mechanical engineer out of Stony Brook. Little did I know that I'd be here now 32 years and, have the honor really of sitting as the acting president. But the point being is that, transit may not be on everybody's mind. Maybe some folks, if they want to go into civil service, they tend to go through fire department, police department and the like. But really what I found is really transit is a fantastic, rewarding career. You can make a career out of it. And that's what we want to get out to the people of New York City that, come to transit. It's a great way to support your city, to make a great living, great benefits, and come here. On the training side, how are we going to do all this training? Well, we knew we needed to get more trainers involved. So not only did we move some supervisors that had training experience from road positions into the training school, but we brought back retired supervisors, similar to the way I discussed that with retired train operators, conductors. We brought them back into the schoolroom to help us do the training on both the bus and the subway side. We also took a hard look at the training curriculum. So conductors is a little quicker. We do about 7 or 8 weeks of training with conductors, and then they can go onto the system. Bus operators is about 6 weeks or so. With train operators, it was about 8 months. So we could hire, hundreds and hundreds of train operators this year. They wouldn't have been ready for 8 months. So we went back, we took a look at the curriculum. We saw where we could potentially fine tune it. Again, without sacrificing safety, without putting any mandates, providing flexibility, and we were able to shave off about 25% of the time, or about 7 or 8 weeks, depending on which division those folks are going into. And then finally, we increased our class sizes because we had more trainers there. We were able to increase class sizes by about 40%. And then lastly, on the right side, we're developing plans right now. We're working with our labor partners on how can we improve employee availability. Those are the day-to-day absences we have. How can we improve on flexibility? Right now, there's some, past practices and collective bargaining constraints around having, extra board train operators, conductors work across the different divisions. We're trying to work with our labor partners to look at that. We offer the vacation buyback program that would pay employees for vacation if they would come to work. The revised subway schedule. So what we did is, and I think, Andrew, if I'm not mistaken, you might have asked this question at the committee. What we did is we lengthened the average time that a train operator conductor can work. I think we went up to 9 hours, if I'm not mistaken, or I think it was 9 to 10. I'm sorry, it was 8:59 to 9:59. By doing so, we didn't change the schedules, right? The same frequencies, same service, but we were able to get 16 crews out of that. So again, we try to take advantage, not only that, but the fact that our systems are running faster through the speed initiative. So we put back the correct running times back into the schedules, and we're able to save some crews doing it that way. Again, some of the other things we're doing, we're using some analytical tools, hopefully to pinpoint where we could target extra board employees. In other words, put them at the terminals where we think that they'll be used most. And again, utilizing, and the last thing here is assignment of traffic checkers and stations. Again, just trying to mitigate some of the staff shortages we have. We used to have platform controllers and the like, trying to use some other employees to help with customer service and that type of stuff, and stations work. So moving on. So again, it's about ensuring our system is safe from COVID. Again, our number of vaccinated employees has been upticking. I think we're in the neighborhood of 65%. I know we want to get that higher, but it has risen by about 20% points over the last 3 months. So that's good news there. We are currently in a vax and test program, and we're going to continue to push that with our employees and to work with our labor partners to make sure that we adhere to that. We rolled out this weekly COVID-19 testing in nearly 200 locations for unvaccinated employees, so that's continuing. We still disinfect every bus, every car, and every station gets disinfected each and every day. And we're trying to work to figure out, in the long term, if in fact that funding goes away, because right now it's federally funded, how we can maintain that level of cleanliness. And again, we have ongoing work with NYPD in regards to increasing mask enforcement. Pat Warren is really the point person here, our Chief Safety and Security Officer. He works between NYPD, MTAPD to get this enforcement going. And again, it really has been for a long time a soft-handed enforcement. It's about, providing masks to people, asking people to wear their masks properly. And then if in fact they adamantly refuse, then tickets will be given. Crime. So, the first thing that I want to say is that, again, I know some folks, going into the system feel not as safe as they once did, but by all accounts, and again, I'll share with you the numbers, year to date versus year to date, crime is still down in the double digits. There was a little bit of an uptick just past month or so, really drawn by grand larcenies, which is basically the pickpockets and the iPhone snatches. But as far as felonies, they are still down. What I would say is also, if you take a look at crime statistics comparing surface crime to subway crime, I think we're something like 0.01% of the crime in the city. And it's something like 76,000 felonies year to date versus 1,300 felonies in the subway system. So again, when you look at the numbers, you are safer in the subways than you are elsewhere. In our work with NYPD and MTAPD, they still have surged about 1,100 police in and around our system. And as well as we've got the MTAPD, and also we're still using private security to provide a security presence. And I'm sure, as everybody knows, each and every subway station now is equipped with cameras. And not only are they equipped with cameras, but we're in the process of going back to those stations and expanding the cameras in each station. So that's an ongoing process as well. We have 311 service now, as you see. Sarah Meyer was instrumental in working with Do It in New York City to get that going. And working closely with the incoming mayor on homelessness and others. So, we'll continue to focus on this and make sure that our customers are feeling safe when they enter our system. Again, we're really focused on providing the best ridership we can. The best service we can to bring back our riders. Some of the things we've been focusing on is, a reinvigoration of the subway action plan, making sure that, we have the things we can control, such as signal systems, car breakdowns, track, we're continuing to maintain them and keeping the service moving. We're doing this through data and performance management. We started on what's called an enterprise asset management system, a new database system, technology tool, and we're ramping up, putting in all our assets into that to help our, managers and first line supervisors have the information they need to maintain their assets. And then also we reinvigorated the speed initiative. Right now, speed is the speed of the system is still at a higher level than it was pre-pandemic. We're continuing to go back and take a look at the speed limits around curves, the signal system, to see where we can increase the speeds and in a safe manner. And it's not only about doing the engineering work for that, but really it's about working with our train operators to make sure that they're comfortable, and we coach them through the fact that, they might have been going around this turn at 10 miles per hour forever. And now all of a sudden we say you can do it at 20 miles per hour. We want to make sure that they feel comfortable doing that, and we're coaching them through that so we could realize all the benefits of the engineering and the infrastructure work. On the bus side and performance, I think everyone knows we partnered with DOT. As a matter of fact, we were just out there, Bradley, myself, at the launch of the Bronx bus network redesign. But we're looking at 20 miles of new bus lanes, 5 busways, TSP, and all the like. We really believe, and I firmly believe, I say this over and over, that the key is having well-enforced bus priority on our streets. As traffic comes back, we need to have our own right-of-way so that our buses keep moving amidst that traffic. And then finally, on the paratransit, the 2 things we're really focusing on in the near term is the new scheduling and dispatch system. We've been having a little bit of, how would I say it, challenges with the current vendor, but we're working closely with them. Hopefully, we're going to get that moving real soon in the pilot phase and then roll it out to all our vendors. And then finally, a new AVLM system that's also going to help our drivers and our customers. On the customer experience side, again, we've been focusing on, what our station of the future look like. I know right now, we haven't been accepting cash. There's no timeline right now to accept cash, but we want to see, what does the station of the future look like, especially with Omni, especially with some opportunities we have around Omni and some other things. We're working on a vision for that, and, we'll have more to say in the coming months. Again, part of that vision, it will include, I think we're going to go out shortly with a new program that automates some of the gates, the slam gates, to give our customers the ability to use them specifically for disabled customers with children and walkers and the like. But, the future really is more about wide aisle gates, right? In the existing fare array, making some of those gates wider, so make them more accessible for our customers that need that room. We're testing a new fleet, the R211, that's still ongoing. I think we have 20 cars that are operating in non-revenue service in and around the system. And again, we'll test and evaluate our first open gangway cars, which is part of that. On the bus side, we're installing wider ramps, doors. I think we noticed. I'm not sure if Frank spoke about some of this. I don't want to be redundant to what Frank did, so I'll go quickly on the bus side. But again, it's about making our bus system equitable, making it more customer friendly, accessible. And Frank and the team have been doing a lot of work on that. And on the paratransit side, 2 real things I want to discuss is currently we have the new broker program, the new broker contract that went into effect. Still some growing pains, quite frankly, as we ramp up some new vendors, namely Arrow and Sentry, and we're winding down on Curb, who did not get awarded the program. Still having some growing pains, bringing the new vendors up to speed, as well as ramping down Curb. but we're continuing to work with them. And then the second piece is around e-hail phase 2. So, the e-hail program, we know was extended through this year. We didn't go to a phase 2 pilot because of COVID. We're going to come out shortly with what we believe is next steps. We're working behind the scenes in the background to formulate that plan. So we'll have more to say on that soon. In regards to modernizing technology and operations, one thing we know that our customers have gotten used to the car cleanliness, specifically in the subways, right? When I go on the subways in the morning, I definitely notice the cleanliness of the cars and the stations, quite frankly. And we know that, even though that happened really around COVID, but there's a potential for that funding to go away, we can't lose that. So we're working behind the scenes, working with our labor partners to figure out a way of keeping that in the future. We're doing some hiring of cleaners. We're coming up with a program, and we're focused on that. Again, CBTC and new signal technology, we're very hopeful. The capital program has restarted. I think there's a bit uncertainty as to the size of the original $51 billion program, but we are moving ahead with those projects in the current program for sure. Again, on the bus side, I don't want to be too redundant, but ABLE, we're going to come out with about 300 new automated bus lane enforcement camera buses that we're looking to start up again in 2022, and then beyond that, we think that's a real key piece, because the one challenge that's always been around keeping buses moving is not only getting the space, the bus lane, but manual enforcement can only go so far. So it's really about the partnership between us and DOT. They do the fixed post cameras, and we add the onboard cameras. And again, we're looking at different things. They're looking at making sure cars make that first right turn out of the bus lane, because that's what they're entitled to. We're looking for the cars and the trucks that are blocking the bus lane, whether it be in bus stops or in the lane. And that's the way those two are complementary. Also, we're looking to work on, and we're going to come out, we come in commitment with 10 all-door boarding pilots in 2022. And we're working for the planning on that, working with our Eagle Team partners to figure out how we do some Eagle Team enforcement on that. And then also obviously communication and marketing. So you'll hear more about that soon, but we have that coming forward in early of 2022. Also, just one last thing on the bus side. We were doing some performance management, similar to the ComStat type of approach on the bus side, and we're going to reboot that. I think Frank and the team have already started that. Really, it's about, again, we have 325 bus routes. So, to the extent that you can keep your eyes on every single bus route across the city on every single day, it's a challenge, even with the CAD AVL. But what we like to do is we like to take a look at the low performing bus routes and start working on them, try to come up with, what's the issues they have. Sometimes it's about service management. Sometimes it's about working with New York City DOT to get either bus priority, or maybe there's an issue around particular trucks in a particular area, or cars parked there. But once we start chipping away one by one, we found we've had success in the past, and we're gonna revamp that now as we come out of this pandemic. Again, and the last thing I just want to mention is mitigating against climate change. A lot of this really is about the zero emission fleet, what should I say, goal that we put forth, 2040 zero emission fleet. Frank and the team have been doing a lot of work. We have 15 buses now. We're going out to award another 60 by the end of the year. And then we still have in the current capital plan 500 all-electric buses to be deployed throughout the city. So a lot of work is going on behind the scenes in regards to infrastructure for that, working with Con Ed, working with deployment, how would we put that, where would we put these buses? And it's not only about battery electric buses. Frank and the team are working on things like hydrogen fuel cell buses, which they use in some areas, specifically California. We want to do a proof of concept around that. Working with Con Ed through a NYCTRC grant, maybe we could take advantage of traction power, right? We know that we have subway traction power that we could potentially take advantage of, and doing a lot of things behind the scenes to really get us in a position to meet that goal. Remember, 2029 is right around the corner, and then after 2028, we won't be buying any more non-zero emission fleet buses. So really, it's coming here. It's about 6 years away now. So we really have a lot of work to do in those 6 years, and especially if this infrastructure bill goes through, which we're all hoping for. The money is going to start flowing, and each transit agency throughout the country will be vying for this type of not only the buses, but the technology around charges and the like. So, you know, that's a lot of the work that we've been doing. And then last thing, I'd be remiss if I didn't just say, being that we had a big rainstorm or nor'easter this week, which, you know, knock wood, you know, we did very well on. So, you know, thankful and, you know, really doing well. I want to say that some of it has to do with Mother Nature for sure. It wasn't an Ida by any means, but a lot of work went into the preparation and the planning, no doubt. You know, well in advance of that storm coming on Tuesday, our teams were out there. They were checking drains, cleaning drains, putting plywood on vent covers, you know, moving pumps and generators around, emergency equipment. And, you know, we had hundreds and hundreds of people all throughout the system that worked 12-hour shifts to make sure that, you know, if and when we did have any kind of flooding conditions, we were there to mitigate that. So we did well, other than for some issues around some bus diversions, and Staten Island Railway had to, you know, close down, suspend for a short period there. Other than that, we did very well. So I think that was it that I had prepared. So I want to, you know, thank everyone for having me here today. But I do have a few minutes if anyone has any questions. And again, I appreciate everyone's advocacy and support here.
Thank you so much, Craig. I'm sure we have some questions. And I'll start with one question, if I may.
Sure.
Many times we've been told and we've heard that all 472 subway stations have cameras installed now. Do you happen to know if it's all fare control areas of those 472 stations?
So I think what happens, and again, I think it's a mix. Some of those stations have fare control cameras. Some of them have mezzanines, platforms. It all depends. But I think in the near term, in order to get the cameras out there, I think that's where we did focus on the fare control areas. And now we're going back and putting, like I said, platform cameras in other areas of the station to get more of a wider cast.
So that's continuing.
That's continuing. And again, that I'm just trying to figure out how I unshare this in the meantime. Cool. I'll stop share. And then it's this way you can see me. Okay, thanks. And in the meantime, it's not only about, there's two programs really, Andrew, I want to share with you. The one program is what we just described. It's like it's an operating program that our in-house forces put up these really standalone cameras that we have to go out really and download. But behind the scenes that we don't talk about as much is our security capital program, where we put these systems in place that stream back to NYPD, to our own security command center. That's still happening too. We still have that going on behind the scenes. And those are more robust programs that stream video back. So both of those things are happening at the same time.
All right, and the importance of the cameras cannot be underestimated because, you know, the clothing of a recent attacker was seen in the cameras, and that helped capture them later on. So very important.
What I could tell you is that incident that happened around Union Square just the other day, right, where they caught the perpetrator the next day, that happened because in Union Square specifically, we had many, many cameras all throughout that complex. And we were able to go to different cameras and get those pictures. And finally, we got the pictures that served the best for the police. So, yes.
Valuable, and that was a great catch on the part of that police officer to see those shoes again. Really sharp.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. All right. Some other questions, Craig. Trudy, and then Chris.
To continue with cameras, and I'll take you back to your old stomping grounds. But there's been a lot of trouble with the SBSs, and I understand it's not only now in Manhattan, but in the other boroughs, wherever you're putting on the SBS, because of something that's really nice, the outdoor restaurant, hutches, whatever you want to call them, you know, the eating outdoors, and that a lot of the SBS buses, because of still double parked delivery trucks and bike lanes and everything else, that I've heard this from a number of drivers and as well as people on the buses. And now it's also, as far as the double parked delivery trucks and people still double parking their cars, that there are supposed to be cameras which go right to the local police station or traffic control or whatever, but a lot of the drivers, because I've asked them, say that they, yeah, I have a camera, but you don't use it, or it's not going, or whatever. So what is the situation with the bus lanes and not having them blocked, and the cameras that are supposed to be on the buses outside? I'm not talking about the internal cameras, you know, with the internal problems, but the traffic problem cameras.
Okay, so let's just take a step back, Judy. I want to make sure we both understand the camera system. So every single bus, right, has a security camera. I shouldn't say every single bus. It's about 4,800 now or something like that. Most of the buses have the security camera system. That system, and that has the forward-facing camera that you see by the dashboard, that doesn't do any kind of traffic enforcement. So I just want to be clear.
Right.
There was a lot of misinformation about that for a while about that. So we have 123 buses that have the automated bus lane enforcement camera system. And those are the buses that have that. And a lot of them are based out of Michael J. Quill. They're on the crosstowns, like the M14, 34, I think 72, 86, those right now. They're also in Brooklyn, B44, B46. But those are the ones that will do the camera enforcement, that'll send out the tickets. In regards to, like, I think you were saying First and Second Avenue, I think there's some fixed.
The M15.
Yeah, the M15. So, I mean, there's fixed post cameras, I believe, across that car that DOT manages. Those are the ones that make sure that that cars make the first right turn, but they won't enforce a car parked in a bus lane. They're not set up that way. So right now, the only thing we have is really manual enforcement, you know, working with NYPD on ticketing that. And again, you know, some of those bus lanes are not, you know, in effect 24/7. I think some of them are only peak bus lanes as well, right? On across First and Second, if my memory serves me
What do you
correctly.
mean? No, I mean, I don't ride in the middle of the night, but certainly from early morning until 9 or 10 o'clock at night, you find double parked cars, and then the lanes are smaller anyway because of the outdoor restaurant things.
Yeah.
So
Well,
is there any
yeah.
thought to, because it's now that there's more traffic, and of course there's also more people taking cars until we
So
get
what I would say is this, in regards to, I mean, I think there's two issues that you're describing, if I hear you correctly. Number one is blocked bus lanes by cars. The other thing is, to the extent that we gave up some of our real estate on bus lanes for the open streets program and the, you know, outdoor restaurant dining program, I should say. You know, during the pandemic, you know, New York City went forward with the outdoor dining. We felt it was important that we supported that. You know, the restaurants across the city, small business owners were suffering. To the extent that that continues in the future, you know, we'll work closely with New York City on that. But the second thing is keeping our bus lanes clear. Really, the ultimate way that we need to do this is through this bus lane enforcement camera system, because again, manual enforcement, you can only do so much. So, you know, we're going to roll this out as fast as we can. We hope to have 300 more buses equipped with the system, and then we have over 1,000 buses in the next year. That's really the way we're going to be able to move this
So
along.
you are going to expand the bus lane enforcement cameras?
But they won't be live feeds to police precincts.
No, not live
Yeah.
feeds, but they'll take a
Sure.
picture and then pass it on, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We are absolutely expanding that. We can't go fast enough. It's just a matter of working with our vendors
Oh, that's
to get that
wonderful.
accomplished. Yes, but we
Great,
absolutely.
thank you, thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Craig, good
I
to see you again.
I'll get you.
Hi. Hi there.
Good to see you, Craig.
You too.
Good. My question is very simple, that there's been a little bit of problems on the Brighton line with no announcements when there's a problem with the Q train, or say the B, starting from Kings Highway to, let's say, all the way to Brighton Beach. Because it happened on Friday. I did put it in, and I did email it to PCAC. They have the copies of it, and you should have it on the complaint log. So there is a problem with, you know, announcements on the platform. Especially, they're not communicating when they're saying the next Q train's coming in, especially the next Q is right in front of me, pulling in.
Kate,
So
you got
there's
that? Kate, you got that? Just Chris, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure. Kate, you got that? We want to just make a note of that? The Q? Can you say that one more time so we take note of that, Chris?
Q train at Neck Road Station going towards Manhattan bound.
We'll send you the email. Kate, I'll send that to you.
Okay, yeah, if you send me the email, that'd be great.
And I know Andrew says this a lot also, but I just want to add one thing. There are some train cars are so severely dirty, not inside, outside the train. Like the A and the C is so dirty, it looked like it came in through a dust tunnel. So if you get
No,
a chance,
Chris,
And-
it's interesting you say that because last week I saw one and I couldn't believe how filthy it was, quite frankly. And I called it into Demetrius to address that. I haven't seen it like widespread like you're saying, but we'll take a closer look. Well, I definitely did see one car that was way too dirty. I'm not sure why.
well, Andrew and I did see it at Euclid Avenue when we were at the trip. But
Craig, do you remember if that was an R46 or an R179? That dirty car you saw?
I
good
tell you the
one.
truth, I didn't take note of that. I want to say, if I remember correctly, 2700 car. Does that ring a bell to anyone?
R46.
Yeah.
That's an R46, so that's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was on the Quincy now. But last one, just to make it quick. When you do have a chance with Frank, as well as you, Craig, we need to look at some of the buses that ridership is definitely increasing, and there is some safety concern that wheelchairs and walkers cannot get on or off safely. And if I mention every bus, it's unbelievable. And the way that they're showing bus drivers disrespectful is getting very, very upsetting. And I don't want to say the rest because it's upsetting my voice today.
So
Thank you.
first of all, I apologize for that, no doubt. But the good thing about the bus operator side of the house is that, like I said, it only takes 6 weeks for new hires, and we're bringing on, 200 operators every single month. We're hopeful that by, the end of this year, we'll be back up to full quota, and hopefully some of that will be alleviated. But Frank has the information, right, Chris? Because I know I was talking to him about that.
Stuart has a question, Karen has a question, and then we had another question.
Yeah, and Bradley has a question.
Oh, that's right.
Thank
Bradley.
you, thank you, Lisa. Craig, on the theme of cleaning, which is what I wanted to ask about, you had mentioned in the presentation about what's being done and has been done with car cleaning. We need to not lose sight of station cleaning. And through other speakers that had direct control of these areas in the past, we pointed out that there were antiquated work rules that were going to be addressed about the need to take cleaners from one station if an intensive effort had to be made at cleaning particular stations. These are concepts that were never resolved and shouldn't get lost in the translation. While there was a big concerted effort to keep stations clean during the pandemic, it seems to have dropped in the last month. We're seeing a return to stations that are heavily soiled and don't get regular attention. I'll get specific with Lisa offline and then she could message you. Just in general, also an observation, because I've been writing different lines for work and for other business. The R46s don't seem to be cleaned, exterior and interior, with the same frequency that the numbered lines. It's just appearance. They're soiled, windows are dirty. Don't know the rhyme or reason to it, but just an observation. But my whole point is station cleaning needs to continue. If we want riders back, appearance is very important. And, we're talk on the cars. We have to keep that up in the station environment as well.
Point well taken, Stuart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron?
I have two questions. My first question, I was curious when you said that when there's upticks in crime, how does that affect ridership at any given point? Notice, is there a sudden drop-off? Are people responding by not taking transit? Do you just get more calls? I'm just curious what happens every time there's a spurt of ridership.
So, no, I mean, we're not seeing any direct correlation between ridership and crime. In fact, the correlation is that crime is down and ridership continues to go up every week after week. Just the point being is that I think people want to feel safe and secure coming back to the system, whether it be around COVID or personal safety. And, that's what we're focusing on. But no, there hasn't been any correlation. I mean, the correlation is that crime is down and ridership continues to tick up.
done to ensure that the drivers over the bus, that curbs, we have a lot of people that have, accessibility issues getting on and off the bus. It's just not happening, especially when you're entering those crosstown buses and you can enter at different points. It's just not happening. And I've seen people like leap down and almost fall, or it only happens maybe if someone's coming up on a wheelchair or something.
No,
So-
they're not.
He's right.
So as long as the bus stop is open to the bus, in other words, there's no cars there that prohibits the bus, they should be pulling parallel to the curb, no doubt. What we'll do is we'll go out with a campaign, a communication campaign, and then we'll also have road operations continue to focus on that. But make sure that dispatchers are watching out for that. But they should be curbing the bus, no doubt.
If I may, I brought this up at the meeting that we had with Frank on buses last month, because there is a serious problem. I guess it's going on in Queens also, but I know in Manhattan, the drivers are not curbing the buses. I mean, and they literally, it's not even a question of the ramp but they can just curb the buses, but they seem to just go, stop. Some of them are even stopping in the middle of the street. I stopped calling in or writing up complaints because I would be doing it for almost every other bus sometimes. But if there could be something, I asked Frank, putting out a notice or something about just curb the bus.
Yep. I'll follow up with Frank. Yep.
I've now gotten to a point where when they do curb the bus, as I'm getting off, I will say, thank you for curbing the bus to the bus driver.
So you're about to respond.
My last question, or point. So, I noticed this a few times, taking different buses, mostly in Manhattan, but other places. So traditionally, the front of the bus is where you have the seats that are allocated to, people with various mobility issues as well as older people. And as we have an aging population, I've seen all of those seats filled and people standing, and there aren't seats. And so I'm just curious with future buses that are purchased, what will that seating look like in terms of, taking care of mobility issues? You can't force people to get up.
Yeah. So we did have the prototype bus down here to Broadway. When was that? I'm trying to remember when that was now. It was maybe a few months back. You got a chance to see it? Yeah, if you had a chance to see it. But there is some more flip-up seats in the front, give people the ability to store their walkers and maybe strollers. And there was some additional seats for those with disabled and seniors there in the front. So I don't know if you saw any of the new buses just yet. We had them out. There are, I think, a little over 100 buses in and around the system right now, but every new bus does have a new configuration on the seating.
Karen, if you want, we can let you know when that bus will be down here again. If you're available, we can show it to you.
Absolutely.
Right, Karen is our newest member.
Okay, welcome, Karen.
Thank you.
What we could also do is we'll ask Frank what routes those buses are on. If any of those routes are near you, maybe you want to check them out.
And maybe one or two in Queens.
Yeah.
Bradley, your
Bradley.
question, and then we have one here if you have time.
So I feel very lucky, Craig. I get to speak to you twice in one day, so very privileged. I have two quick questions. One is about the speed unit, which I think is a phenomenal program to speed up service for riders. However, I feel like a lot of riders don't really know what's going on with the speed unit or don't really know about it. And I think especially, ridership is coming back faster than what was projected. But in an effort possibly to entice more riders to come back, of educating them more on the work that's happening, the transit is speeding up service, and doing so safely might be something that would be beneficial to help attract riders back. And I don't know, are you guys planning on doing any sort of campaign about that so that the public can actually weigh in and know what's going on and see that you guys are working hard to speed up service?
Yeah, sure. So I think Demetrius gave a little bit of an update in the last committee meeting on some of that. But I know also the press team is thinking about some type of event, when we hit a certain milestone in the future. So, your point's well taken. I think people are starting to think about that and figure out how we can get that word out there.
That's great.
Please count us in for that.
Yes.
Second that.
And another quick question has to do with the Bronx bus redesign, the event that we went to this morning, which was great and well attended. My question with that, we just released our Freedom Ticket Phase 2 report, and within that report, we do call for improved bus connections to Metro North stations in the Bronx. And I know that throughout the final draft report, there's a lot of discussion about improving connections to subways, which is important. But I'm just wondering, have there been any discussions or thoughts about improving connections to Metro North stations, especially if we are fortunate enough to get fare discounts in place? So
As of yet, I think that has not been a focus, but for sure, if things change in regards to our fare policy, I know Assemblyman Benedetto took me off to the side and said, you might want to consider when the new ferry comes in, right, extending the Q50. So all those things, the fact that we're going forward with the redesign the way it is now does not, prohibit or preclude us from continuing to iterate and to make the system better as we see these new needs come up. Does Kate, you wanted to say something? Kate?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that. So it was a long time ago, but this is absolutely something we talked about in the process of redesign, is we're creating a foundation for the new network. And when those new developments open, the service can be more dynamic and provide that service. But in the moment, it would be a waste of resources to run trains to a station that hasn't opened yet. So it is not going to be included in the proposal. But making those new connections when those Metro North stations become a reality is something that's underpinning a lot of the analysis.
And I think, Kate, that's great, especially for this for new station. But there are plenty of other stations all throughout the Bronx that could probably benefit as well from improved bus connections to it.
And there are several new connections that are created, but if there are specific ones you think the team needs to look at, you can send those directly to me.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, brother.
We have one question in the chat,
Go ahead.
which comes up, probably once a month, which is about reopening restrooms at the subway.
Yeah. So right now, we don't have any plans to reopen the restrooms at this point in time. Part of it's born out of the fact that we are hundreds of cleaners below budget, right? We need to hire back cleaners. So we'll have some more to say in the future, but right now there's no immediate plans on that regards.
Okay. Craig, thank you so much.
Okay,
as
well.
always. We'll be in touch, I am sure, and keep up the good work.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for having me. It's always a pleasure to come in front of this group, and I always enjoy the conversation. So thank you, everyone.
Welcome,
Thank you.
welcome every month, Craig.
Thank you.
And we'll ask you about restrooms every month.
And First and Second Avenue, Trudy. I know you would ask that every month too.
Thank you.
Everyone stay safe. Have a great day. Thank you so
You
much.
too. Okay, we have time for old and new business. Old business. Christopher.
Yeah, to bring it back, one of the questions we talked about shortening waiting time for trains. They still have one error, they said this morning. They're claiming the B train is short. I mean, like short on crew. B runs more frequently than the Q was doing because we know the Q had a delay due to a door problem. They need to work on better communication. The only thing I'm seeing with the B train is when they're terminating at Kings Highway, I see another one waiting for the other one. They're like kissing each other, but they're like on top of each other. And I'm like, okay, so where's their short on crew? I don't see that on the B. I don't see that sometimes on the Q. The only time I hear a problem with the Q is when there's a door problem.
I always see shortage of crews on the C and on the S.
Yep.
And whenever I look at the
yes.
alerts.
The other one you just said again?
And the S.
I see more Fs from my window I have ever seen, and they're also stuck at Neptune from...
Are they in service?
Yes. go, you wanna come with me tonight? We could just stand there and wait right near McDonald's and just say, one waiting, another one waiting between, one at West 8. It's like a tango. And I look at them like, if they're empty, why can't you just turn around at Kings Highway? That's why there's a middle track for them.
They have not reinstituted the two runs though, F Express again.
I wasn't talking about the F Express.
I know, but that's
Time
one of
enough?
the ones they
Yeah.
turned at Kings Highway.
Some did, and some actually were going to Coney Island. But there's the adding, I know Stewart's gonna back, say,
I see Stewart.
that,
No,
Right here?
I've taken it this week. It's running very nicely.
F Express?
yeah,
Yes.
Diamond?
It's back, the F Diamond?
Absolutely. The 7:32 out of Coney Island, it gets to Avenue X at about 7:36, and it's
Thank you.
running nicely. I'm very happy.
I'm very surprised.
especially when they do start, they come out of the yard, I look at my telescope and my window, okay,
They have a big
and I see
gap,
the diamond heading.
not to get granular, they do have a gap between 7:25 and 7:40. It's not what it used to be.
Morning or
but-
evening?
But morning. I can't tell you about the F Express at night, but the morning it's running. I'm very happy, and I know the other commuters too from our part of Brooklyn are very, very happy.
Yeah, whereas Cobble Hill and Carroll Gardens are not so happy. Any other items of old? Sharon?
No, just my usual, why we can't have better police enforcement at the, air train and.
I have heard that Sutphen Archer is getting some additional police, that's the obvious place. I have heard that.
And at the bottom end of the 6 at Lexington 59, where the police are all up, where there's a person in the booth. Why aren't they down at the other end where everyone's coming in both directions?
I've reported that report that you've given me any number of times, but, I will report it.
Reporting again, they were down at the booth.
I will report it to Inspector Porteous.
Yeah, and I would like to second that, using that station.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. We are losing so much fare. It's not, every time I ride, I see it.
It just breaks my heart.
And guess who that hurts? That hurts the poorest New Yorkers, because that means more frequent and higher fare increases.
Andrew, is there, my understanding was that their fare enforcement committee, was gonna be giving a report, or that there was gonna be a report at the next board meeting?
The NYPD's fare enforcement?
The board, the MTA board have a committee that's looking at fare,
We have a fare working group that has not yet convened
not
yet.
a fare discount working group,
Right.
fare evasion working group.
I have not
Fair
heard about that.
enforcement working group.
I thought there was a task.
There was a task force that was being developed that was
I haven't
for the
been-
last few years.
I haven't heard a thing about that recently.
Maybe that would be something to inquire about.
Yeah, I will.
I thought it was raised over in the last couple of months.
I mean, maybe
I think Larry Schwartz had raised it.
Yeah, but I didn't think it went anywhere.
Right, but I thought that Jano had said it was gonna be reconstituted, or,
I haven't heard about the reconstitution.
So is that like a Pat Warren question?
Maybe.
I'm sorry, from you?
Everyone just comes in.
Fare evasion.
Slam gate, and that's
okay.
and then they sell, try to buy, from people.
On the E and J platform.
And unfortunately, most of the, if not 99% of the folks committing crimes, robberies, attacks, assaults, are not paying their fare. So if you stop them at the turnstile, you've not only helped the MTA's bottom line, but you've helped crime.
And Andrew, just to add one thing, it's also difficult for walkers and wheelchairs to get on or off because the person is right behind you trying to sneak behind them.
I know.
And it's not fair.
You know that people are now, I see them waiting for 2 and 3 trains for somebody to exit a station through a slam gate so they can enter.
You really knew that one. I didn't have to say it. Everybody, it's everywhere. It's even J3 Metro Tech.
What is the obligation of the people wearing those vests? Because a couple of days ago, I asked some police to
Security guard.
stand by.
That's not their job, unfortunately.
So they won't.
Security here.
But they certainly could notify the booth agent who could call the police or do something.
They wouldn't.
No.
Please watch the slam gate, I have to go through it. And and they went the other direction.
I hear you, Sharon. I see it all the time. Any other old business before we move to new?
New.
New?
New.
That's like Yiddish, right? New?
That's, yes, no.
I knew that was coming.
Which means, so what?
Karen, you have a new? Okay.
Ladies first.
I was curious about, what happened with the Fifth Avenue busway and what, the committee's plan of action is, if we're countering in any way, if there's any, reports we are giving, advocacy. I'm just curious as to how we're.
Talking about the mayor's Fifth Avenue plan and how it has.
What's happening.
Department of Transportation.
No, I understand. It's related because of the buses.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wanted to hurt the holiday shopping and all of that. I have a feeling it could see the light of day again in January or when the new mayor decides what
It was all of the retail businesses along, mostly, and the theaters.
Or one or
It
two.
was the owners of,
yeah.
but it's also, they have a proposed plan that takes buses off of Fifth Avenue and go somewhere else. And so that's where I thought we were.
But they didn't want to hurt the economy. They did do a study.
buses help the economy.
They-
Bring shoppers.
No, it was
I think that when there's a new mayor in place, that the conversation will resume.
Oh,
I think that there's a lot of waiting for that to happen.
There was some
and a
things
lot of
wrong with
different
that proposal that a new mayor might rectify and it might see the light of day.
I think we're at the tail end of a mallard.
Watch yourself.
Fair enough.
Watch yourself, please.
Andrew, put your hands up.
Stuart.
Okay, one last new item. There's been talk in the paper about testing the new map, which is really an old version of a map. Is there anything, Andrew, you want to share with us on that?
Sure.
And the timetable and the background on that?
Yeah, so there will continue the testing of the new, that is old Vignelli designed subway map, which shows trunk lines with every line visible. I had a long talk with Sarah Meyer about that because I have problems with the Vignelli map for a number of reasons. I don't think it's as easy to decipher. I think visitors would have a hell of a time. I have been assured that it is not replacing the existing map. It is in addition to the existing map and is designed to show what GOs are taking place, what service diversions are taking place. And for that purpose, it may be easy to understand. It is not replacing the current map. I have been told I will be kept abreast of this and can submit comments and talk to Sarah about it. But it is not a replacement map.
And how are they gauging the impact of this?
I'm sorry, Stuart, say that again?
How are they gauging the impact of the test?
I don't know. I think it's only in 3 stations at the moment. I would like to go see it myself. I have had extended talks with somebody Trudy knows very well who worked on the original map and who did extensive research on the Vignelli map and the issues contained with that Vignelli map. Arlene Bronstadt, her name is. I'm going to be putting her in touch with Sarah Meyer so that Sarah can hear from her all of the issues related to the Vignelli map. For this limited purpose, it may be a decent thing to do, just for GO.
There was a big committee going way back. You might have heard the name Stephen Dobrow. He was the late Stephen Dobrow and Arlene Bronstadt. And the minute this came out, Arlene called me and Dr. Arlene Bronstadt, and I immediately put her in touch with Andrew because people were calling her like crazy. And they don't know why they would go back to the Vignelli map, which everybody said no good. That it didn't serve the purposes. So,
folks, we are reaching the limit of our ability to remain in this room. So, one last comment, Chris,
Yeah.
and then we're adjourned.
And just to add, the system-wide accessibility, the technology and information is testing it and looking at it also because it has to be checked by accessibility. So I just want to make that clear because I will be discussing that at November 8th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful Halloween weekend.
Oh, well, I would, if I could figure out if my train station is, if my train is running or not, because the GO that they posted makes absolutely no sense. And why would you take a busy line out of service on Halloween?
It isn't mainline third track work?
I mean, your regular track on this.
No, I've read.
Oh, you're talking about the 7th?
Yeah.
Oh.
I got a doctor's.
Interesting, Lisa, I can check that right.
Thank you.
I have your number, I have your number.